Welcome to Binge True Crime. Imagine a quiet, unassuming man whose twisted desires led to the horrifying deaths of 17 young men and boys. From a disturbing childhood fascination with dead animals to the gruesome crimes of murder, rape, and cannibalism, Jeffrey Dahmer's dark journey is a chilling tale. His reign of terror ended in 1991 when a victim's escape unveiled the macabre evidence hidden in his apartment. Convicted in 1992 and sentenced to 15 life terms, Dahmer's story ended violently in prison. Discover the haunting details of one of America's most notorious serial killers in this gripping exploration. Here are 5 unique facts about Jeffrey Dahmer that distinguish him from other serial killers. We will reveal shortly some disturbing details of how he treated his victims. Number 1. Crimes and victims. Jeffrey Dahmer, often referred to as the Milwaukee Cannibal or the Milwaukee Monster, was an American serial killer whose heinous crimes shocked the world. Born on May 21, 1960, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Dahmer exhibited troubling behavior from a young age. He committed his first murder in 1978, shortly after graduating from high school. His victim was Stephen Hicks, a hitchhiker whom Dahmer lured to his home, where he strangled and dismembered him. Dahmer's killing spree continued until 1991, claiming the lives of 17 young men and boys. His victims were primarily African American, Asian, and Latino males, often chosen from marginalized communities. Dahmer used various tactics to lure his victims, including offering money for photographs or companionship. His methods of murder varied, but often involved drugging his victims before strangling them. The brutality of Dahmer's crimes extended beyond murder. He engaged in rape, dismemberment, necrophilia, and cannibalism. Dahmer meticulously dissected his victims, preserving parts of their bodies as macabre trophies. He kept skulls, skeletons, and even attempted to create a shrine from his victims' remains. Dahmer's cannibalistic acts included cooking and consuming his victims' flesh, which he claimed allowed them to become a part of him. Dahmer's reign of terror finally ended on July 22, 1991, when Tracy Edwards, a prospective victim, managed to escape and flag down 2 police officers. Edwards led the police to Dahmer's apartment, where they discovered photographs of dismembered bodies and human remains, leading to Dahmer's immediate arrest. The subsequent search revealed a gruesome collection of body parts, confirming the extent of his depravity. In 1992, Dahmer was convicted of 15 of the 17 murders and sentenced to 15 consecutive life terms in prison. He expressed remorse for his actions during the trial, attributing his behavior to his struggle with mental illness and loneliness. However, his apologies did little to alleviate the anguish of the victims' families. Number 2. Early life and behavioral issues. Jeffrey Dahmer, born on May 21, 1960, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, exhibited troubling signs of behavioral issues from an early age. The eldest son of Lionel and Joyce Dahmer, Jeffrey's early childhood seemed relatively normal. However, as he grew older, his behavior became increasingly concerning to those around him. From a young age, Dahmer displayed a peculiar fascination with dead animals. He would collect roadkill, dismember the carcasses, and explore their anatomy. This macabre interest was not merely a childhood curiosity, but an early indicator of his later gruesome activities. Dahmer's father, a chemist, recalled that his son was oddly intrigued by the chemical reactions involved in cleaning animal bones, a fascination he would later transfer to human victims. Dahmer's early teenage years marked a significant change in his personality. He became withdrawn, disengaged, and isolated from his peers. His parents noted a stark shift in his behavior following a double hernia surgery he underwent at the age of 4. However, the more pronounced changes occurred during his adolescence, coinciding with the increasing tension and eventual divorce of his parents. At Revere High School in Bath, Ohio, Dahmer was known as an outsider. He struggled academically and socially, often turning to alcohol as a coping mechanism. By the time he reached his mid-teens, Dahmer was drinking heavily, sometimes even consuming alcohol during school hours. His classmates remember him as a quiet and somewhat awkward individual who rarely engaged in typical teenage activities. The growing turmoil in his family life, combined with his burgeoning inner demons, only exacerbated Dahmer's descent into darkness. His parents' volatile relationship and eventual separation left him feeling abandoned and further alienated. Dahmer's mother, Joyce, suffered from mental health issues, while his father, Lionel, was frequently absent due to work commitments. This lack of a stable home environment contributed to Dahmer's sense of isolation and his retreat into a world of disturbing fantasies. These early signs of behavioral issues and his fascination with death set the stage for Dahmer's later atrocities. The combination of a troubled home life, social isolation, and early exposure to death and dismemberment created a perfect storm that would culminate in one of the most notorious serial killers in history. Jeffrey Dahmer's early life is a chilling testament to the profound impact of childhood experiences on the development of violent behavior. Number 3. Arrest and evidence. Jeffrey Dahmer's arrest on July 22, 1991, marked the end of a chilling and gruesome series of crimes that had terrorized Milwaukee and shocked the world. His capture was precipitated by the escape of Tracy Edwards, a 32-year-old man who had narrowly avoided becoming Dahmer's next victim. Edwards's courageous actions and quick thinking not only saved his life, but also led to the discovery of the horrifying evidence that would unravel Dahmer's deadly secrets. On that fateful evening, Dahmer lured Edwards to his apartment under the pretense of paying him for photographs. Once inside, Edwards quickly sensed something was amiss. Dahmer attempted to handcuff Edwards and threatened him with a knife, but Edwards managed to fend off the attack. In a desperate bid for his life, Edwards escaped from the apartment and flagged down 2 Milwaukee police officers, Robert Routh and Rolf Muller. Edwards led the officers back to Dahmer's apartment at 924 North 25th Street. Upon entering the residence, the officers were struck by the foul odor emanating from within. Dahmer, appearing calm and cooperative, allowed the officers to investigate. What they discovered inside would forever haunt their memories. The officers first found photographs of dismembered bodies and body parts meticulously documented by Dahmer himself. These images provided undeniable proof of his gruesome activities. Further investigation of the apartment revealed an even more macabre scene. Human remains were found in various states of dismemberment. In the kitchen, police discovered severed heads and a heart stored in the refrigerator, along with other body parts in the freezer. A large drum containing acid held several decomposing torsos. Dahmer was immediately arrested and taken into custody. The subsequent search of his apartment yielded a harrowing collection of evidence, including tools used for dismemberment, blood-soaked instruments, and a complete human skeleton. The sheer scale and brutality of Dahmer's crimes became apparent as the investigation unfolded. During his interrogation, Dahmer confessed to the murders of 17 young men and boys, detailing his horrific acts of necrophilia, cannibalism, and dismemberment. Thank you for taking time to watch our podcast and channel. If you like what you see and hear, please like and subscribe to my channel. It is very important and meaningful for me. Number 4. Trial and conviction. Jeffrey Dahmer's trial and conviction in 1992 were among the most closely followed and macabre legal proceedings in American history. The trial, held in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, sought to bring justice for his victims and closure for their grieving families. Following his arrest on July 22, 1991, Dahmer was charged with 16 counts of murder in Wisconsin. His trial began on January 30, 1992, and the courtroom was filled with intense emotions. The prosecution, led by Assistant District Attorney E. Michael McCann, aimed to prove Dahmer's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, emphasizing the premeditated and brutal nature of his crimes. Dahmer, represented by defense attorney Gerald Boyle, pled guilty but insane to the charges. The defense argued that Dahmer's severe mental illness had driven him to commit these horrific acts. They presented evidence of Dahmer's long-standing psychological issues, including his necrophilic and cannibalistic compulsions, to support their claim of insanity. However, the prosecution countered by asserting that Dahmer was fully aware of the wrongfulness of his actions and had gone to great lengths to conceal his crimes. They highlighted his meticulous planning and efforts to avoid detection, suggesting that his ability to distinguish right from wrong indicated he was not insane, but rather a cold-blooded killer. The trial featured harrowing testimonies from forensic experts, psychologists, and even Dahmer himself. The chilling details of his crimes, combined with his own unemotional recounting of events, painted a picture of a deeply disturbed individual whose actions were both calculated and monstrous. On February 15, 1992, after 2 weeks of trial and only 10 hours of deliberation, the jury found Jeffrey Dahmer guilty but sane on all counts. He was convicted of 15 of the 16 murders he had committed in Wisconsin and was sentenced to 15 consecutive life terms in prison, totaling 957 years without the possibility of parole. Dahmer later confessed to an additional murder in Ohio in 1978, for which he was not tried. Dahmer's conviction provided some semblance of justice for the families of his victims, although the horror of his actions left an indelible mark on all involved. His subsequent incarceration brought an end to his reign of terror, but the memories of his brutal crimes continued to haunt those who followed his gruesome saga. Number 5. Death in prison. Jeffrey Dahmer's death in prison was a violent and abrupt end to the life of one of America's most notorious serial killers. On November 28, 1994, Dahmer was killed by a fellow inmate, Christopher Scarver, at the Columbia Correctional Institution in Portage, Wisconsin. Dahmer's grisly demise was as shocking as the crimes that had led to his incarceration. Scarver and another inmate, Jesse Anderson, were assigned to a work detail cleaning a bathroom in the prison gym. Scarver, a convicted murderer with a history of mental illness, had harbored deep animosity towards Dahmer due to the nature of his crimes. Scarver later stated that he was repulsed by Dahmer's lack of remorse and the disturbing details of his offenses, which had been widely publicized. As the three men worked together unsupervised, Scarver seized the opportunity to confront Dahmer. Using a metal bar from the gym, Scarver first attacked Dahmer, striking him multiple times in the head and face. The blows were so severe that Dahmer succumbed to his injuries almost immediately. Scarver then turned his attention to Anderson, who had also been convicted of a high-profile crime and similarly bludgeoned him. Anderson would die from his injuries a few days later. The attack left the prison authorities and the public in shock. Scarver later explained that he believed he was acting on divine orders to punish Dahmer for his heinous acts. He was subsequently sentenced to 2 additional life terms for the murders of Dahmer and Anderson. Dahmer's death brought an end to his horrifying legacy, but also sparked debates about prison safety and the treatment of high-profile inmates. For the families of Dahmer's victims, his death provided a mixed sense of relief and unresolved anguish. While Dahmer's gruesome end mirrored the violence of his own crimes, it did not erase the trauma he had inflicted on so many. His life and death remain a chilling reminder of the depths of human depravity and the complexities of justice. Thank you for taking time to watch our podcast and channel. If you like what you see and hear, please like and subscribe to my channel. It is very important and meaningful for me.